Alright, load screen up here on King Sejong. For those who are new to the channel, if you've never seen us before, hello, howdy, I am Rifkin, joined tonight by Namshar. I am a lowly caster, nobody really knows about me, but of course my buddy here is a Grandmaster Zerg player, so when we get some Zerg games later on, prepare yourselves for some decent insight. For now though, spawning here in the top left corner of the map, he's blue, he's Terran, from Evil Geniuses, it is Xenocider.
And in the bottom right, of course, we have our red Terran player playing for CM Storm. It is Polt.
Now, I'm sitting here fingers crossed. I'm hoping that people aren't going to underestimate Xenocider. He's done some really cool things, now granted mostly against Protoss. He's had a pretty decent TvT run in his history. And if we're going to be quite honest, guys, not to knock Polt down a peg or anything, but he's not been the unstoppable force he once was. There was a time where nobody could touch this guy, no matter what race you were, no matter Korean, American, or European. But he's kind of, I don't know, he's less of an immortal than more of a mortal. He's a regular dude nowadays. This is what America has done to him.
Yeah, I mean, kinda, I guess. But I mean, of course, also his main weakness, I guess you could say, is playing versus Zerg. Like we've seen him lose series to Zergs that you may not have expected him to lose to. But I mean, recently when I've seen him play, versus Protoss, he's known for sniping those Nexi, and versus Terra, and he's known for very very sick comebacks. But yeah, maybe not as dominating as he was, but his TvT and TvP is always a pleasure to watch.
Well,
still a really good player.
We get two fairly important differences going on right now, and yeah, there's the gas. Oh, sorry, I should have the protection tab up. Look at me being a fantastic broadcaster here. One of the biggest things, guys, he decided to go for gas, of course, great, whatever, fantastic. But he's also not walling off the front of his ramp here. There's so many 1-1-1 pushes right now in TvT that people are just straight up losing the game, and a majority of the time, it's a bunch of Hellions running up that ramp after the Marines get unloaded in the main. By simply walling this off, you eliminate half of that threat before it even begins.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting point. And we see Polt going for the 15 gas, so maybe we'll see Hellions come out of Polt eventually, or maybe we won't. Polt does like his bio play, but yeah, I'm not quite sure. But Xenocider going for that gas before barracks. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go Banshees from here, I guess.
Well, the thing too on top of this that's kind of frustrating, watching Terran versus Terran for so long, having it being my favorite matchup for the longest time. Once upon a time you'd have these crazy macro games, but ever since the Banshee gas change for Cloak, things have just started spiraling downhill. It used to be Banshee versus Banshee, first Banshee wins, then we saw the Raven get involved, so we start seeing more Marines, and the 1-1-1 I just described is kind of the popular quote-unquote meta right now. I'm kind of waiting to see Hellbats find a place after that armory change, to see what next level of abuse comes in, but what I do like is the fact that Pulse put down this command center. He's going for the factory, granted a little bit later, but we're not going to see that one base all in. That's kind of the abrupt end to a lot of these games.
Yeah, indeed. We're gonna see, Polt being on the defensive here, and with that, 15 gas, with the gas a bit later, I'd imagine he's gonna be going towards, a kind of high Marine count and maybe like a quick Viking to deal with the Banshee that we should see coming in here. Yeah, there we go, switching the starboard. So maybe a Viking eventually, but to start things off, a bunch of Marines, and I don't know, maybe he's gonna scan and go for an eBay as well. I'm not quite sure.
Just completely unrelated to what's going on right now, I got a brand new monitor today because my old monitor crapped out on me.
Alright.
I'm not gonna lie, this is actually really cool. I'm watching StarCraft on the quote-unquote big screen. Oh, this thing is way bigger than my old monitor, so my neck is not used to this angle.
Oh really? Well, how big is it? How big is it then?
Well, my old one was like 1600, 900. This is like full 1080p type thing. So what I'm saying here to the broadcasting audience today is these first couple games, pardon Rifkin, is he just kind of sits in awe at the wonderful colors and the big pixels that he gets to witness firsthand for the first time.
Yeah, alright man. Yeah, that's cool. Always nice with a new monitor.
I didn't want to get a new monitor, I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty strapped for cash, but the I can't operate off of one, man. Two monitors, I've grown accustomed to it. Nice scan out of Polt. Sees the starport ticking away on that engine, or on the anti-tech lab, so he knows there's gonna be Cloak coming out of this. I like the Marines on top of the ramp for Xenocider as well, ready to intercept some Hellions, but of course his command center is significantly later than that of Polt's. Oh, can his Banshee? Oh, that timing!
Oh no, well, he's gonna be able to finish it, but does lose one SCV. But a nice timing there on the turret, you know, like 2 seconds too late, but having that eBay ready and then going for the scan, he's able to throw down those turrets right away, and now he has the Viking as well as those turrets, so Polt shouldn't take, you know, too much damage from this.
I like that Xeno didn't even go for the mineral line. He just kind of knew that there would be a turret there and that detection would be a problem with the Viking looming around. So picks off another SCV, goes for the tech lab on top of this. This is a decent start, but it's nothing too crazy. It's not like he invested 4 Banshees and this is like the end of his life because he didn't get any kills for it, but at least he's getting a bit of damage. So it's really important he doesn't lose this Banshee, of course. This will come in really handy later on for breaking tank lines, doing more harass, catching your opponent off guard.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, maybe it would have been nice for him to try and snipe off a few more Marines, because he didn't even end up killing that tech lab, so I mean, this Banshee hasn't really accomplished a lot, but yeah, he could use it again later. It has to get away from that Viking, though. He kind of left it there for a little while, so it might actually fall now. That's a bit of a mistake.
Polt with the eyes of a hawk, man. He saw this coming. Banshee does go down. That's going to suck a little bit. Viking gets involved with the fight. A Raven could auto-turret to upset the balance. There we go. So picks that off. Not too bad.
Yeah, that was nice. Bit of a comeback there. Trading a Viking for a Banshee.
Yeah, the thing is, Xenocider's making another Banshee here, guys. This isn't because, like, he's dumb and doesn't realize the first one got shut down. Banshees have a really nice place in TvT, outside of the initial harass. They're really good for breaking tanks. They're good for poking your opponent's line, especially if they're sieged up outside of your base. There are a lot of utility through damage, whereas a Viking, Marines, tanks, they've got very strict roles and they're not very, I guess, malleable in that regard. The one thing I would have liked to have seen Xenocider do, though, is get a second Viking. 2 Vikings kind of guarantees you air dominance at the start of the game, because you know Polt's going to have like at most 1, and he already picked that 1 off. Yeah,
I agree with that. I would also like to see him get that second Viking, but yeah, I agree. I really like the decision to go for that Banshee, considering he did kill that Viking of Polt. So if you can, like you said, keep that air dominance, you know, you can go for those tanks that you talked about. So
I like this double Viking production at time behind it. Now what we're going to see a lot of here, of course, is Marine tank. This is really funny to watch because trying to explain this to my friends who are like the less, I guess, active, the more League of Legends players is what I'm trying to say here, is they're always like, you know, tanks are so good, why do people not just make Marauders to break them? And there are places and times for Marauders in TvT, but rarely is it when players go bio tank. Marauders just don't have the DPS to deal with the Marines, and while they can dive a tank or two, you're better off just having like 5 extra Marines for it. So we're going to see a lot of dancing between these 2 units specifically. Maybe some Vikings mixed in, maybe a couple medevacs here and there, but what I do like, and I've seen this so often, it doesn't really matter who's ahead right now in unit count, guys. Positioning in TvT means everything. Like, you see and hear people talk about concaves and Roach versus Roach and all these other things. That's not really the case here. It's about your tanks being unsieged versus sieged versus being in the correct position for an attack. And Polt, I like that he's unsieged at the moment. He wasn't quite sure where his opponent was approaching from. Now he's got a better idea and sieges up. That scouting Marine is worth every dollar, man.
Yeah, that was a nice scout there, but nice position here by Xenocider. He's going to be able to kill that bunker while maybe even getting a tank.
Almost gets the tank. One more shot would have done it. He's, of course, a little worried about the Marine count, but he's got tanks to cover for him. High ground vision on his side, but the scan goes down from Polt to help make up for this. We got the Vikings in the sky ready to snipe off any medevacs to come by, but there's no medevacs to be had. Polt actually doesn't have a lot of tech behind this. There's no combat shields done yet, so he can't push into the tank line. He pulls some SCVs absolutely necessarily, and Xenocider's going to throw down, only 1 auto turret. That kind of stings. But if he kills enough of the Marines, his Banshee will reign supreme afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a good trade for Xenocider, and he might be able to push down these tanks.
Yeah, he's going to get a couple more kills here. More SCV is going to go down. Polt losing a good chunk of his workers in this engagement, and even the Vikings being landed, actually. This tank's going to go down. So, I mean,
yeah, that was... Yeah.
Well, resources lost, that doesn't look so good for Xenocider, guys, but you got to keep in mind, Polt had to throw away a lot to defend that, and for Xenocider, he doesn't need exactly 40 tanks at home to defend against any sort of counterattack. One big thing he saw was with no medevacs, he doesn't have to fear drops just yet.
Yeah, indeed. But, I mean, that was a nice haul by Polt, and the main thing that he was really got going for him is that he's got the 3rd CC already finished, and Xenocider's is just now starting, and if we look at the upgrades, Polt has already +1, and Xenocider is just starting his +1 now. So Polt is both ahead in economy with a 3rd CC and in upgrades. So even though that was a pretty good trade itself for Xenocider, Polt is looking pretty good.
Polt lifting his orbital there for a second, a small mistake, but this drop's going to be so limited on what it can do. 1 Marine left behind. This Viking, though, that is never fun.
Yeah, that stings. And I mean, we see Polt with those patrolling Vikings on the edge of his bases, and I really like that because he doesn't have a sensor tower, and he's moving out with his army now, so
Ooh,
he needs to know about drops if there is one.
I don't like this push out of Xenocider. He still doesn't have combat shields himself. Polt, of course, does have combat shields, and as you point out, that +1 weapon upgrade advantage. So Xenocider pushes into Polt right now. His Marines are just asking to die. Bottom line, doesn't matter how many medevacs you have. That's 10 less health and no weapon upgrades. Not just yet.
Yeah, indeed. He probably just needs to, sit back here and macro up a little bit, to try and, get back into, get some more upgrades, etc. But nice sensor tower, though, by Xenocider. I like that. He's going to catch the movement of Polt now.
He loses a Marine for it, but the thing is, guys, that 50 mineral scout is worth every mineral. Knowing exactly what's coming, seeing that's medevacs, not tanks, it really allows Xenocider to gauge where he can attack from. Same for Polt. That's why I sent that one Marine forward. He didn't know what Xenocider had at home. Now, Polt investing in a Marauder here is a bit of a funny thing to see. I don't think it's going to be too much effect. The biggest thing, of course, is Xenocider still doesn't have that combi shield upgrade done yet. Once that kicks in, he can start taking better fights. But until then, that 10 health is such a big deal, guys.
Yeah. And I mean, that was kind of an interesting move out by Polt, because he left all of his tanks, like he had a lot of tanks, Polt did, but he left all the tanks at home and just moved out with a more mobile army where he doesn't really risk losing anything because he can just boost away with Stimpack or Medivacs. So a very mobile army. He's just checking what's up, see if he can pick anything off. So just being nice and active with this.
If Xeno had known about these tanks, it would have been 5 free tanks for those Marines. Polt knows something's up, though. He sees it through the edge of the fog of war, so he knows he's got to stay at home and defend. He can't go full on for an attack. We got one single Marine actually starting to pick off some SCVs up here. If not dealt with, that could be really problematic. But Xeno's trying to escape the Marines sprinting for their lives. Of course, he got a load here on the high ground. Maybe pick off those level 2 armor upgrades, but there's so many Marines waiting for him. This is doomed. Oh my god, that boost comes off cooldown. He's trying to go for it. Polt has got his number, though. He's already lost one medevac full of units this game. Loses another. Can it be 3? This
is such a big deal. This is so much army supply dying for a Xenocider, and he's not even gonna unload, and that medevac full as well. Oh, that really does sting.
Not only was that a lot of army supply, it didn't even draw him out of position to go for an attack. Like, we saw Polt's entire army chasing those 2 medevacs. Had Xenocider pushed while that was going on, this could have worked out really well. Now that one of mine doesn't get any kills, but it does weaken up this tank pretty heavily. In fact, one shot, this tank is dead.
Yeah, during all of this though, Polt's macro slipping a little bit. Like, he's heavily supplied right now, making 4 depots, and he was like floating like 16, 17, 1800 minerals there for a little while, so he has to get those depots down so he can, start producing again, because his supply could have been a lot higher than it is. But
he is rushing and coming from the back end, but this is the problem with King Sejong Station. You have to walk so far to get around. Now, if Xenocider abandons his tanks and sprints up that ramp, he's in a lot of trouble. He thinks Polt's army is waiting for him at the top of the ramp, but realistically, it's coming from behind. Realizing this too late, he lifts up to go to the main, and he's going to lose his entire army value. Oh, dear. I don't think the drop of the main is going to make up for it. I do like this one sneaky tank over here on the side, though.
Yeah, that's...
Job's actually getting some work done. Chases off the SCVs. Can he kill the command center? I don't even know if he's got the DPS to do it. I think he could have. I think he could have.
Yeah, maybe. SCVs were coming back in, so it would have been risky. So he just goes for the safe option, tries to get out of there, but those medevacs could get sniped if Polt realizes. And there's a Viking that might actually bump into it.
These Vikings from Polt seriously have 3 kills, and these kills are all full medevacs! This thing is like... This is the MVP. You know, guys, you hear us often nickname the Polt Viking versus Zerg, but it applies versus Terran too, because holy schmoly, this thing's got 4 kills on it, but realistically, it's more like 28.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. It's quite amazing. That Viking has been doing some really good work this game, and Polt now, I mean, he's smelling weakness. He's stimming forward here, trying to get a good position.
Trouble. He can't even find the time to stim. To siege up. He pre-stims, but Polt's tank count is way too high. The army value for Polt out of control, and while Xenocider in all of these engagements has tried to go for these drops in the main at the same time, never had an army value big enough to afford to do that. Polt certainly does.
Yeah, and I mean, Polt, I guess, is going to try and slowly move forward here, because he does have that very superior siege tank count. And, I mean, there's only 1, now 2, a second one coming out for Xenocider, but that's not enough. Oh, and that tank doesn't have vision of Polt's tanks, and it's going to fall as well.
The long-standing problem with siege tanks, man, they can shoot a lot farther than they can see.
Yeah.
I like that Xenocider was attempting to go for a sort of wraparound here, but he doesn't have the numbers for it. Pushing in here, Polt's going to annihilate him through the Marine count. Tanks holding strong in the back. SCV's pulled into this mess, but that's not going to matter. This is going to be game 1 for Polt.